Muricio Sulaiman says Errol Spence will still pay sanctioning fees for the Keith Thurman fight at 154. What does this mean? What's good, everybody? It's your boy Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. All right, so I see everybody's going crazy about this Muricio Sulaiman news regarding Errol Spence and the Keith Thurman fight at 154, and they're trying to figure out why Errol Spence is still paying sanctioning fees. It's crazy because when you think about it, you gotta start to wonder why this fight came together in the first place. A lot of people are saying that, Errol Spence really doesn't want this fight, that he doesn't want to give Keith Thurman a shot because of what Keith Thurman did to him in the past, that Errol Spence is holding a grudge, that he's being petty. A lot of things being said about Errol Spence, nothing being said on regards of Keith Thurman and his poor decision-making in the past. His poor decision-making in the past is keeping him from getting a title shot now. 100% believe that Errol Spence would have gave him a title shot if he would have gave Errol Spence a title shot back then. Is that petty? Is that right? Is that wrong? Listen, I don't think he should be fighting Keith Thurman in the first place. You got to explain to me, because I just watched Punch Drunk Boxing, and he was saying that Errol Spence didn't deserve a shot back when he was asking Keith Thurman for a shot at the title, that he wasn't ranked high enough to get a shot. Well, you got to explain to me how Keith Thurman can stay out of the ring. Now, let's be official here. His second stint out of the ring was about 2 years. It was about 2 years. And you got to explain to me how you stay ranked for 2 years without any activity. That's got to be impossible, especially when you got Boots out here, you got Vergil out here, you got Rashidi Ellis out here, Blair Cobbs, you got a bunch of names out here that have been completely active for the past 2-3 years in the sport of boxing. Somehow, Keith Thurman comes back, gets a Mario Barrios fight, and just high jumps everybody in the rankings. It makes no sense. And then you got to start asking yourself, why is this happening? Why are they going about this? Why did the WBC even make this a mandatory fight if there were going to be no titles on the line? It makes no sense, because you can best believe if Boots got granted, it would be for the titles. If Stanionis got granted, it would have been for the titles. So how does and on top of all that, how does an in-house fight pop up as the next fight with no titles on the line? PBC gets to make all this money, and the fans really get absolutely nothing. Only people who are happy with this are Keith Thurman fans. If you've been a Keith Thurman fan for a long time, you're happy that your guy's getting another shot. I'm not knocking that. Be happy for Keith Thurman if you're a Thurman fan. But at the same time, you got to look at what I've been saying for the past few months about Pacquiao. Why can't Pacquiao come back and high jump all these guys if he wanted to? He wanted back in, even though he got screwed out of everything. Keith Thurman didn't get screwed out of anything. He got beat by Pacquiao, and he took 2 years out of the game. He screwed himself. I'm so confused on how Keith Thurman got to jump everybody. I'm so confused about that. But I think I know what the truth is. I think I know what's going on here. And to answer a question that Punch Drunk put out there, that he was saying that Errol Spence is going to pay his own sanctioning fee. Listen, Errol Spence isn't paying anything. We have to stop putting false truths out there. We all know in boxing that these purses are generated basically out of nowhere. The promoter that is putting on the fight is the one putting up the money. The promoter is the one putting up the money. So how is Errol Spence paying for anything? He's not paying for a sanctioning fee, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about PBC and the in-house fight. I don't think Errol Spence set all this stuff up. It doesn't make sense for Errol Spence to set it up, because the Crawford fight makes him 10 times more money. He could have walked straight into the Crawford fight. obviously it's a PBC thing and them feeling slighted by what Crawford did, and they're going ahead with an in-house fight that's going to make them a whole bunch of money that they lost over the Crisis in the World time. And because they couldn't put the Thurman fight on then. If they would have put the Thurman fight on then, there would have been no revenue off the venue. So they lost a lot of money on the fact that they couldn't make the Thurman-Spence fight then. You can't put it all on Keith Thurman. They couldn't make the fight because of that fact. And I kind of feel the same way about the Pacquiao fight. They didn't want to make any Pacquiao fights because they weren't going to make any revenue off the venue. So they forced Pacquiao to sit around and sit around and sit around. And eventually he got stripped. And I think that's completely unfair because they wouldn't have done that to Errol Spence. So going back to what I said about Thurman, you know, they lost a lot of money during the Crisis in the World, and then turned around and lost even more money because they were for sure Terence Crawford was going to go with that contract. They felt like he had nowhere else to go, and they had no backup plan at the time. So to me, it's not really Errol Spence setting this stuff up. Errol Spence isn't paying sanctioning fees. Any sanctioning fees that are taking out, they're taking out of the bulk amount of money. So he's never even going to notice that there was a sanctioning fee removed. Number one, that's coming out of Al Haymon's pocket. Al Haymon is the one, and his lawyers and his representatives deal with the WBC. His lawyers, his representatives negotiate with other promoters. You know, people have to stop saying that, well, it's Errol Spence and Keith Thurman not accepting this, or Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Those dudes ain't doing no type of negotiating. There are suggestions. They give nothing but suggestions to their representatives. Their representatives negotiate for them. In the case of the sanctioning body situation, it's not Errol Spence having to pay a sanctioning fee for that fight to happen. He's not paying anything really. He's never going to notice that money. Al Haymon, you know, and his representatives once again are setting all that up in the background, and it's almost like boxing corruption is so blatant now. It's not even corruption anymore. It's just the way they do business now, and they're more willing to put on the fights they know they're going to make them money, and that they don't have to put out any money. It's all in-house money, so you don't have to pay anybody outside of your own business. And for anybody to say anything other than that, you're just simply not being truthful and not telling fans what's really going on. What's really going on is that the sanctioning bodies are kind of like the yes men for the promoters. As long as the promoters are paying those fees. As long as those guys are getting padded, then the promoters are getting away with any and everything that they want to get away with. And they can put on any type of fight that they want to. And this is proof. You got to explain to me how Keith Thurman is jumping all these people, being inactive for all that time. They don't have to put the titles on the line for a mandatory fight. And it's not even at the weight class that the fight was ordered at. You know, does that scream anything other than corruption? Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely get a response on the tube. If you want to collabo, hit my Gmail. flockofcards@gmail.com. We are out of here.
Nice kicks, nice feet. I'm looking like $1 million. Nice kicks, nice feet. Hold up, stay fitted. Hold up, stay fitted. Hold up, hold up, hold up. Stay fitted. Hold up, stay fitted. Hold up, stay fitted. Hold up, hold up, hold up. Stay fitted. Club doors open. I slide in. Looking like $100,000 times 10. I'm in a secret society. Sin to get a dame of the freaky variety. Club on fire, it's at least in the 90s. Club lights got my gold teeth looking shiny. Super keys, so many degrees. Black tees, smelling like trees off a breeze. Leave the club smelling like trees when I leave. Know me cause I sell them CDs for the cheese. I keep it simple, no stripes, no polka dots. Rock what I wanna rock, fit still slogan. You can bet $1 million, you ain't got it like this. You can bet $1 million, you ain't got it like this. I'm looking like $1 million, nice kicks, nice feet. I'm looking like $1 million, nice kicks, nice feet.